In a small town, I found a tattered diary in my grandmother's attic. Unbeknownst to me, it belonged to my cousin, Mia, who had died 7 days before I discovered it. As I read, I realized that each page revealed the fears and horrifying experiences Mia had faced. Every entry seemed to warn of a dreadful fate. Over those 7 days, I became trapped in the same darkness, and I had to uncover the mystery that had taken her life before it was too late. This experience became a chilling journey that would change my life forever. One gloomy afternoon, I decided to spend time at my grandmother's house, who had just passed away. Wait, the treasure in the attic. I remembered how, as children, Mia and I used to play there. With some effort, I managed to open the dusty attic door and found piles of old belongings. In the corner, I spotted an aged diary. Its cover was worn, but Mia's name was clearly written on it. When I opened it, the scent of burnt wood instantly filled my nose. On the first page, Mia had written, "I feel like something is following me. Faint whispers wake me up at night." With every page I turned, my heartbeat quickened. Mia, who was once cheerful and full of life, had suddenly become anxious and terrified. Why didn't she tell me? I whispered to myself. Memories of happy times with Mia flashed through my mind, but now, everything had turned dark. The diary wasn't just a window into her thoughts. It was a window into the darkness that now threatened me. Day by day, I continued reading the diary, and the horror began seeping into my nightmares. On the third page, Mia wrote about a mysterious girl she had seen in the mirror. "She always stands behind me, but when I turn around, no one is there," she wrote. Slowly, the nightmares started haunting my sleep. I heard soft whispers as night fell. One evening, while searching around the house, I heard a faint voice. "Mia, Mia." It was clear and distinct. I rushed outside, looking for the source, but there was no one, only the night wind rustling the leaves. The next morning, I continued reading the fourth entry. Mia had written, "Today, I feel stronger, but something sinister is haunting me. Why won't she leave?" As I read, I decided to visit a place Mia often went to, an old park on the outskirts of town. When I arrived, the atmosphere felt heavy, as if the ground held dark secrets. "I'll find the answers," I muttered, scanning my surroundings. Suddenly, I felt eyes on me. When I turned, the girl, with hollow eyes and a disturbing smile, stood not far away. By the 5th day, fear had fully taken root in me. The diary felt like an inescapable, dark prophecy. Mia wrote about worsening visions. "Today, everything feels unreal. It's like my life is being taken piece by piece." I felt trapped in the same horror, sinking into helplessness. One night, after waking to whispers calling my name, I decided to visit my grandmother. Maybe she knew something, I resolved. At a cafe near her house, I asked her old friend about Mia's final days. She said something unnatural was happening. "Maybe some kind of curse?" the friend answered, voice trembling. "What kind of curse?" I asked, my fear deepening. She only shook her head. "There's something bigger at play here." I returned home uncertain, and when I glanced in the mirror, I saw the girl again, waving as if beckoning me. The 6th day was the worst. Restlessness consumed me. Mia's diary touched upon an incomprehensible darkness. "She might be coming for me," Mia wrote on the final page. When I closed the book, I felt trapped in a labyrinth of nightmares. That night, moonlight streamed into my room, and the voice returned. "You must choose. There's a place where she can't reach you." Dark clouds loomed, and fear stole my breath. I knew I had to leave. Without hesitation, I took the diary and sought answers where Mia had hoped for help, the old park. When I arrived, the voice grew louder. "Listen, or you'll be next." Deep in the woods, I shouted, "Mia, I hear you. Show yourself." Suddenly, a bright light enveloped me, and Mia's figure appeared. "Don't follow me. That girl is trying to drag you into death with me," she said, her eyes glistening with sorrow. "Burn this diary. It's the only way to stop her." After that terrifying encounter, I returned home and burned the diary. Black smoke rose as if erasing all traces of Mia's existence. But not everything was gone. Sometimes, when I look into the mirror, I see that girl lurking in the corner, waiting for her chance. Now, every night, I pray not to relive the same nightmare. Mia may be gone, but the memories and the curse linger. One valuable lesson I've learned: not everything hidden should be uncovered, and darkness truly listens when you speak too deeply. The haunting mystery surrounding Matthew Hale's disappearance has become a local legend, laced with whispers of the paranormal. A seemingly ordinary man, Matthew chronicled his final days in a diary that would soon become a chilling testament to his fate. It begins with mundane reflections, but quickly delves into a dark descent into fear and paranoia. As his reality blurs with nightmarish visions, his written thoughts reveal a deepening dread that something malicious is stalking him. The diary serves as a psychological exploration of his mind unraveling, creating an atmosphere thick with tension. Just days before he vanished, his fear became palpable, drawing readers into a spiraling abyss where the line between sanity and insanity fades away. This is a record of his final days, a harrowing window into a soul tormented by unseen forces, where each page turned leads closer to the edge of a darkness no one is prepared to face. I remember clearly the day I stumbled upon the diary of Matthew Hale. A friend and local history enthusiast, Sarah, had spoken of his mysterious disappearance years ago. Intrigued, I visited the old library where dusty minutes echoed with the past. Flipping through yellowed pages, I felt an unsettling chill as Matthew's handwriting unfolded. October 3rd, it began with the usual reflections of mundane life, work, friends, and plans for a weekend hike. "Something strange happened today," Matthew wrote, describing an encounter with an elderly man at the park who murmured warnings about the woods. "Do not go too far, or you shall regret it." I chuckled, thinking it a whimsical addition to the otherwise banal day. However, as I read further, the innocence faded. His words morphed into a chronicle of increasing anxiety. October 8th, the shadows feel heavier. "I could swear I hear whispers, but it's always when I'm alone," he noted. Sarah curiously peered over my shoulder. "This is odd. Didn't he disappear around this time?" I nodded, the oddity growing denser. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was standing on the precipice of something much darker. "What happened to him?" she asked, eyes wide with intrigue. "Nobody knows," I replied, overripe with curiosity, "but it must have had something to do with those woods he often wrote about." I glanced once more at the page, the ink rich and dark against the paper, pulling me deeper into Matthew's world, and something within dared to wonder. What had he found in those woods? Matthew's entries escalated, revealing a terrifying reality. October 10th. I can't shake the feeling of being pursued. The woods grow more ominous. The trees loom like giants, their branches reaching out like fingers. As I read those words, the air felt heavy around me, and I could hear Sarah's breath quicken. This doesn't seem normal. she whispered, her hand gripping the edge of the table nervously. October 12th. I saw it today. A figure lurking far enough that it could be mistaken for a shadow, but it wasn't just a trick of light. I could feel its eyes on me. It was watching. My heart raced. I could almost hear the rustling of trees outside the library, an uncanny reminder that life sometimes mimics art. Do you think he was being hunted? Sarah speculated, her expression shifting from curiosity to concern. What if he was telling the truth? What if something is still out there? I hesitated, but couldn't deny the eeriness of his descriptions. The diary had transformed into a living entity, each word a pulse echoing through time. October 15th, I have to go back to the woods, he resolved, writing with a conviction that made my skin crawl. I must confront this shadow. The finality of it sent chills down my spine. It felt like I was reading a line from a horror movie, one that beckons curiosity while foreboding disaster. As I turned to the next page, I paused. A heavy silence fell between us. Should we follow him? Sarah pondered hesitantly. I felt a dangerous thrill ride within me. If he went back, maybe we should too, I suggested, reluctant yet fascinated by the impending dread of uncovering the truth. I would later regret that decision. Armed with flashlights and fortified by unyielding curiosity, Sarah and I found ourselves at the edge of the woods Matthew had often described. The trees guarded secrets, transforming the landscape into a labyrinth of shadows as evening fell. It's just like he wrote, Sarah whispered, unease clouding her voice. Look, I pointed towards a clearing where the moonlight danced on the damp earth. It feels alive. As we stepped deeper, the ground crunched beneath our feet, and the air thickened, perfumed with an unsettling stillness. Unbeknownst to us, we were stepping into a narrative long written, a place of torment Matthew had ventured, only to have him swallowed whole. We reached a small clearing, much like Matthew had described. What do you think he saw here? Sarah asked, clutching her flashlight tighter. Maybe the figure? I mused aloud. Suddenly, a cold breeze swept through, causing us to shiver. Goosebumps, Sarah said. Maybe we should turn back. Her voice trembled, yet something urged us on, a mix of dread and intrigue binding our feet to the ground. Not yet, I replied, drawn inexplicably to the darkness. We heard whispers, a low murmur circling among the trees, and as we exchanged troubled glances, I could see the doubt clouding Sarah's eyes. Did you hear that? She stammered. The noises became clearer, words blurring into unintelligible cries, weaving a spell of terror that wrapped around us. October 17th, they are closing in, Matthew had written. My stomach churned as if his words had slipped from the pages and coiled around my mind. We need to leave, Sarah urged, her voice cracking with urgency. Something indescribable tugged at my psyche, a sensation that threatened to unravel the fabric of reality. It was suffocating, heavy, as if the very woods were holding secrets that had long since passed judgment. We rushed back through the woods, heartbeats jarring in our chests, and as we escaped the grasp of the trees, we found ourselves gasping for air at the edge of familiarity. I still clutched the diary in hand, a burden that felt heavier than lead. That was insane, Sarah breathed as we reached the safety of the parking lot, lights seeming far more reassuring than the darkness we left behind. Look, I jolted, staring down at the diary. The last turned page revealed fresh ink, writing that couldn't have been there before. I'm sorry for bringing you here, it suddenly began, words raw with desperation and foreboding. They know you are here. You must run. The chill slithered up my spine. Both horrified and fascinated, I clasped the diary tightly. "Matthew," I barely whispered, a knot forming in my throat. "Can you hear us?" Nothing but the rustling of trees answered. I had touched something that shouldn't be disturbed. Suddenly, Sarah's phone buzzed violently, and we both jumped. She answered, brow furrowing instantly. "What do you mean you can't find it?" she exclaimed, clutching the phone as if it represented our connection to the safety of the real world. No, that can't be." My heart sank. The moment hung as if we had already stepped beyond the bounds of normalcy we had taken for granted. "No," I said, dread clawing at my stomach as she dropped the phone. "Where did it go?" I glanced down, heart racing, realizing I was holding more than a diary. It was a tether to someone, or something, yearning to be found. Weeks passed, yet I could not rid myself of Matthew's diary. It became an obsession, even as Sarah distanced herself. Whispering about curses and spirits, paranoia gripped me. Shadows appeared every time I turned a corner, the whispers growing loud in silence. One evening, I returned to the woods alone, pages fluttering beside me like ghosts yearning for solace. "Ah, Matthew, I'm here," I called, as if he would answer. "I want to help you." The trees loomed above, enveloping me in a blanket of fear, whispering memories of his last thoughts. The very fabric of reality felt thin. As I stepped back to the clearing, time slowed. I could feel eyes upon me, the weight of ancient judgment pressing through the bark. Suddenly, I understood. Matthew hadn't just vanished. He'd become part of this dark narrative, consumed by something waiting to feasting on curiosity. The ink in his diary blurred once more as I felt the presence flesh out, and a pulse grew stronger in the air. "Help me find a way," I wrote, trembling, fear and inevitability entwined like thorns. The diary slipped through my fingers, falling open on the forest floor, words spilling out like blood. The last entry echoed with sorrow and darkness. "You will never escape once you come." I looked up, feeling the roots of the trees intertwining with my legs, the whispers rising as I vanished, the only sound echoing an answer to Matthew's last plea. "Join us." "10 years ago, a tragedy struck our school. A classmate named Nathan Smith vanished, only to be later discovered lifeless in a secluded ravine. The event left an indelible mark on everyone, and we tried to move on, bearing the memories deep within. However, one fateful day, I found Nathan's diary mysteriously placed on my desk at home. As I flipped through its pages, old emotions surged, and I was drawn into Nathan's dark, tormented thoughts. Each word resonated with a chilling familiarity, making me question whether the past had truly stayed buried. The further I read, the more I felt an unnatural presence surrounding me. Nathan's descriptions grew sinister. A series of unsettling occurrences began haunting me, leading me to a horrific truth. His death had not ended his grasp over the living. I ultimately raced against time to unveil the mystery behind the diary and confront the ghostly retribution waiting in the shadows. It was a regular afternoon when I returned home from the university, the soft sound of rain tapping against my window. I dropped my backpack onto the floor, eager to unwind after a long afternoon of lectures. Walking into my room, I was taken aback to find an old, tattered diary resting conspicuously on my desk. Its leather cover was worn and cracked, dust accumulated over the years, but the name inscribed on the front sent a chill down my spine. Nathan Smith. Could this be a joke? I muttered under my breath. Nathan had been my classmate from middle school until his inexplicable death a decade ago. The entire school mourned his loss, his laughter, his kindness. All abruptly ended when he mysteriously vanished on a school trip. For years, we had tried to forget the haunting memories, but Nathan's death lingered like a ghost. I'll just toss it, I decided, moved by instinct to push it aside. But as I reached for it, I felt an odd pull toward it. Flipping open the first page, my heart raced as I read the elegant script resembling Nathan's. "Do you believe in the shadow that follows?" It began. A cold shiver coursed down my spine. "Nathan," I whispered, almost expecting a reply, but the silence in my room was deafening. Days passed, and I could not stop thinking about the diary. Each evening, I found myself drawn back to it. As I read deeper into Nathan's life, I encountered passages that spoke not just of feelings, but of eerie incidents, whispered threats, and a relentless fear he could not shake. In one entry, he wrote, "Sometimes I feel like someone is watching me. I can hear whispers in the wind, voices calling my name. It's as if the shadows of my past refuse to let me go." "Hey, are you all right?" my best friend Mia asked during lunch, noticing my distracted demeanor. "I'm fine," I replied, unable to share the diary's heavy secrets. I did not want to sound crazy, but the diary consumed me. That night, I returned to it again, and there was a familiar passage that read, "I wish I could escape this curse. It's too late for me, but maybe there is still time for you." "What does that mean?" I whispered, half expecting the walls to answer. Suddenly, a draft swept through my room, extinguishing the light, plunging me into darkness. The air thickened, and I could hear faint whispers that froze my blood. "Help. Me." "Who's there?" I shouted, but only silence followed. My heart raced and panic set in. As I fumbled to find my phone, I couldn't shake the feeling that Nathan's presence loomed closer. I sought counsel from Mia after several strange occurrences. "You need to stop reading that diary. It's not healthy," she suggested, her gaze filled with concern. However, my curiosity was relentless. "But what if it holds the key to unravel what happened to him?" I argued. Mia's eyes widened. "You didn't believe the rumors, did you? They said he was trying to reach out, that he knew something." Rumors swirled around Nathan's death. Some classmates spoke of him foreseeing his fate, claiming he had whispered about a curse that followed him. "Maybe it is true," I mused, shaken by my experiences. I decided to confront the diary once more. That night, I read an entry that detailed a premonition, an incident during the trip that led to his demise. "The shadows took one of us that night. They want more," it warned. My fingers trembled as I reached for the final pages. They had been torn, but the remaining words chilled me. "They watch, always." Each hour, I dove deeper, losing track of time until an ominous crack erupted through my window. I looked up to find my reflection staring back from the shattered glass, a twisted version of myself, distorted and shadowed, as if a piece of my soul was lost. With determined resolve, I knew I had to seek answers. Rumors about a local historian haunted by Nathan's story led me to visit an old library. "This diary, it may unlock something," he whispered, nervously tracing the spine of an ancient book, "but beware of the shadows lingering in its pages." As I delved deeper, I uncovered tales of a hidden curse tied to our school, one that ensnared children who held dark secrets. The more I discovered, the more I believed I had stirred something malevolent by reading Nathan's words. They were not merely memories, but cries for help. I need to put it to rest, I surmised, returning home. I reread the diary, seeking closure. As I reached its end, a revelation hit me. Nathan was trying to warn me. Forcing myself into an intense, trance-like state, I attempted to communicate with his spirit. "I want to help you," I cried. "Tell me what to do." The room shuddered, shadows swirling ominously around me. With courage, I focused on the diary, summoning the memories back to the sealed place where his story began, the ravine where he died. By sunrise, I found myself standing on that desolate edge, diary in hand, desperate to free his spirit. As I tore Nathan's diary into fragments, whispering words of apology, I felt an eerie calm envelop me. The air thickened momentarily before releasing a weight I couldn't see but could feel. The tension that had gripped me for weeks began to evaporate like mist in sunlight. "Thank you," a fervent whisper brushed past my ear. I looked back, haunted yet relieved, the remnants of Nathan's echoes lingering like a fading memory. Weeks passed after that fateful act, and life gradually regained its normal rhythm. The diary's presence felt liberating to let go of, and yet I often found myself gazing at the sunlight filtering through my window, wondering if Nathan and the darkness he faced had finally found peace. Then one day, in the silence of my room, I discovered a newly formed slip of paper under a stack of books. It contained just one line: "You were brave." I shivered, looking toward the window, hopeful yet anxious about what I'd once stirred, forever cautious of the shadows that might unfurl from the past.